Hitler believed in socialism.
Number one, the Nazis were upper left. The Nazis were upper left.
He was a very emphatic liberal, big government socialist. Undeniable.
Why do right-wing commentators and politicians love telling us that Hitler was a socialist? Elon Musk has now joined the chorus during a chat with the leader of Germany's far-right AfD, a party with its own controversial relationship with Nazism.
Nationalized industries like crazy.
Yes, absolutely. He was a communist.
But do they have a point?
As the word says, they were socialists.
Remember, Nazism is National Socialism.
It was a National Socialist movement for a reason, and the socialist part of it wasn't accidental.
This is a pretty straightforward argument. The Nazis are socialist because it's in their name, which in full is the National Socialist German Workers' Party. But just like how North Korea fails to live up to its branding as a democratic people's republic, we can't take National Socialism at face value, and to do so ignores the context in which the party was founded, a Germany defeated at the end of World War I, whose economy, monarchy and empire has collapsed. This is an era of radical politics, where the Russian Revolution of 1917 is inspiring working-class socialist movements throughout Europe. In these post-war years, Germany is plagued by violent street battles between the left and right. A short-lived socialist republic is even declared in Bavaria before being brutally put down by a right-wing paramilitary group, the Freikorps. Its membership are aggressively anti-communist, and many of them will go on to join the Nazi Party.
The Freikorps militia, led by Captain Ernst Röhm and others, took back the city today after a tense 2 weeks of communist rule.
Germans in the Weimar Republic are young, angry and polarized. This is when and where the Nazi Party is founded. The choice of socialism in their name and the red backdrop on their flag is purely a strategic one. In the general elections of 1919 and 1920, around 40% of the German electorate opt for leftist parties. So the Nazis choose to wear their clothes, to capitalize on revolutionary sentiments within the working class. But this mimicry is only surface level. Hitler wants to usurp socialism.
I shall take socialism away from the socialists.
Hitler's views on leftists are very clear. In Mein Kampf, where he uses the terms communism, Marxism and Bolshevism interchangeably, he says,
"The problem of how the future of the German nation can be secured is the problem of how Marxism can be exterminated."
It is true that in the early days of the Nazi Party, there was a strong anti-capitalist element. Led by Gregor Strasser, it couples authoritarian anti-capitalism with virulent anti-Semitism and messaging aimed at the working class. They call for a corporative state and the expropriation of princely lands. But these ideas soon draw Hitler's ire. At a party conference in the town of Bamberg, he denounces them as Bolshevism. But this doesn't end the tension. Strasser goes on to launch his own newspaper with his brother Otto, which continues to promote their anti-capitalist agenda against the Führer's wishes. Hitler instead seeks to court big business. In 1932, the party gathers a petition signed by 19 prominent representatives of various industries calling on German President Paul von Hindenburg to make Hitler Chancellor. And in 1933, Hitler secretly meets another large group of businessmen, including leading figures from IG Farben, Siemens, Opel and Allianz, where he declares,
"Private enterprise cannot be maintained in the age of democracy. When the defense of the existing order, its political administration, is left to a majority, it will irretrievably go under."
The meeting results in a combined donation of around 3 million Reichsmarks to the Nazis' election fund. 13 days later, the party wins a decisive electoral victory, and Hitler becomes German Chancellor.
This was the death blow the nationalists had planned.
The first victims of his rule are communists, trade unionists and social democrats, who are attacked, imprisoned and murdered. The first concentration camp is built at Dachau to house political prisoners. As for Gregor Strasser, in 1934, during the Night of the Long Knives, he's murdered, shot through the neck, while his brother Otto flees the country. As they purge all opposition, the Nazis continue a pro-business agenda. They privatise state companies in spite of their intrinsic authoritarianism.
The Germans prepared again for aggression.
And as Germany switches to a wartime economy, they continue to hold private enterprise in high regard. Major companies are even able to turn down government contracts that they don't believe are in their best interests. To call Hitler a socialist is to misunderstand his worldview entirely. He was by impulse a patriarchal conservative who hated prostitution, believed a woman's place was in the home, and railed against degenerative art.
All outlawed or destroyed, unless it supported what the German leaders were trying to sell.
Hitler saw the world in hierarchies. He admired the British Empire for this very reason. One of his favourite films was The Lives of a Bengal Lancer. Starring Gary Cooper, it's a glorified portrayal of British imperialists putting down a native rebellion.
All right, Mac, you keep me covered, I can make it from here.
It was deemed artistically valuable by the Nazis because it epitomises their worldview, conflict and competition, as natural and even inevitable. And where small bands of Aryans are destined to dominate inferior peoples, Hitler said of the British Empire,
"Let's learn from the English, who, with 250,000 men in all, govern 400 million Indians."
This is survival of the fittest. Hitler didn't seek to raise the people up, but destroy all those who didn't meet his standards, whether racial, physical, or ideological. A belief that would be expressed in the starkest terms when the Holocaust came into full effect.
These too were men. They did not quite die.
So why do people keep drawing this conclusion about Hitler? I think in our deeply polarised age, the temptation to pin the legacy of the world's most famous villain onto our political opponents is irresistible. It's true that the excesses of the left and the right can lead to the same authoritarian conclusions. You only need to look at Stalin or Mao. But this doesn't negate that these endpoints were reached from very different beginnings. And this is where things get dangerous. To ignore Hitler's ties to the right is to ignore what can happen when far-right politics are taken to their extreme, and therefore increase the possibility of it happening again.